Well, days after the National Council of Canadian Muslims called for her removal, Premier Doug Ford has kicked Goldie Ghamari out of the PC Caucus. Ghamari posted a photo of herself with anti-Islam campaigner and convicted criminal Tommy Robinson, founder of the far-right English Defence League. The NCCM said it was shocked and furious at her conduct, saying it is unacceptable for an elected official. And a statement from the Premier's office that reads in part, "This decision follows repeated instances of serious lapses in judgment and a failure to collaborate constructively with caucus leadership and as a team member. While this decision did not come easily, it has become clear that MPP Ghamari can no longer continue in her role within our caucus." And for more on this, we're joined live now by Sabrina Nanji, founder of the Queen's Park Observer. Good to see you, Sabrina. Thank you for making time for CP24. Catch us up for those not familiar with the story. How did we get here?
Yeah, it feels like it wouldn't be a Friday before a long weekend without some explosive news at Queen's Park, and I guess we got it. You're right. You kind of laid it out. Goldie Ghamari, two-term MPP for Carleton in the Ottawa area, has been booted from caucus after calls from the Muslim community in particular. And while Doug Ford's office didn't really, name anybody in this, if we're reading between the lines of him saying Goldie has had these repeated lapses in judgment. If you just look to this week, she met with Tommy Robinson, who's a far right figure. He's the founder of the anti-Islam English Defence League, and he's here in Canada. And so Goldie met with him. He tweeted that he met with her to ask her out on a date. And Ghamari maintained that she had no idea who she was. But I mean, just a quick Google search, and you can find out pretty easily that he's obviously a very problematic figure. And so it seems like this was the last straw for Doug Ford. Obviously, Goldie Ghamari has landed in hot water before. She's had to apologize for some of her previous remarks. In the heat of the Israel-Hamas conflict, she had failed to distinguish between, extremist actions and the Muslim faith. And so she's had to apologize for that. And I think clearly, Doug Ford is drawing a line in the sand. And so now she'll be sitting as an independent.
Noted, Sabrina, she has been in hot water before, and the Premier acknowledged that, saying that there have been a number of serious lapses in judgment. What do you think the Premier and his advisors considered before making this decision, especially with an election around the corner?
Yeah, and that's, not lost on anybody. This is all happening against the backdrop of buzz that we might be going to the polls earlier than planned in 2026 provincially. There's talk about potentially going next spring in 2025. There's a lot of factors around that, but obviously it's clear that Doug Ford is, getting his ship in order. Ghamari has made these statements before, and the last time she was, forced to apologize to the Muslim community, Doug Ford said she's not going anywhere. She's been a strong voice for her community. She's like an Iranian Canadian immigrant, and she's been, a good figure for anti-Islamophobia in his caucus. But obviously, that's not the case anymore. And I think there's just been too many missteps that she's had to force to backtrack on. And I think in this case, a lot of people were scratching their heads because, if you're going to say you don't know about this person, you have no idea of his views, it wouldn't be hard to find out if you just did a quick Google search. And so I think Doug Ford is making sure that there's not, problematic characters as he goes, as he mulls the idea of an early election and makes sure that there's no, controversies that could potentially lose him a seat, because Carleton has been a conservative stronghold, at least provincially. And the big question is now, who's going to potentially replace Ghamari? Is there going to be a by-election? Are we just going to wait for the general election? And I also think, where does Ghamari go from now? Because she sort of mysteriously tweeted, one door closes, another opens. There's buzz she might run federally. But I guess we have to see if Pierre Poilievre's team would want to take her on after she sort of, had some trouble at the provincial level.
Yeah, all eyes on that. Sabrina Nanji, founder of the Queen's Park Observer. Thanks for your time. Appreciate this.
Thanks for having me.